गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रजजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
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 Please chant. नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृदयन्तस्थो हि अभद्राणि विद्रोहि सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम
जय
One little practical note.
Yes,
It works much better if you put it on quick,
okay.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it turns off, you put it on again, it's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I showed that to Jess. He said, oh, yeah, much quicker.
Very good, Padre devotees. Thank you for joining today's Bhagavatam class. Today we'll be reading Canto 2, Chapter 2, Verse 14.
Which text?
14.
14.
यावन्न जायते परावरेऽस्मिन्
यावन्न जायेत परावरेऽस्मिन्
विश्वेश्वरे द्रष्टरि भक्तियोग
विश्वेश्वरे द्रष्टरि भक्तियोग
तावत् स्थावीय पुरुषस्य रूपम्
तावत्स्थाय्य पुरुषस्य रूपम्
क्रियावसाने प्रयतः स्मरेत
क्रियावसाने प्रयतः स्मरेत
यावन्न जायेत परावरेऽस्मिन्
यावन्न जायेत परावरेऽस्मिन्
विश्वेश्वरे द्रष्टरि भक्तियोग
विश्वेश्वरे द्रष्टरि भक्तियोग
तावत् स्थावीय पुरुषस्य रूपम्
तावत्स्थाय्य पुरुषस्य रूपम्
क्रियावसाने प्रयतः स्मरेत
क्रियावसाने प्रयतः स्मरेत
यावन्न जायेत परावरेऽस्मिन्
यावन्न जायेत परावरेऽस्मिन्
विश्वेश्वरे द्रष्टरि भक्तियोग
विश्वेश्वरे द्रष्टरि भक्तियोग
तावत् स्थवीय पुरुषस्य रूपम्
तावत्स्थाय्य पुरुषस्य रूपम्
क्रियावसाने प्रयतः स्मरेत
क्रियावसाने प्रयतः स्मरेत
Jayet Puravaresman
यावन्न जायेत परावरेऽस्मिन्
Vishveshware Drashtre Bhakti Yoga
विश्वेश्वरे द्रष्टरि भक्तियोग
Namastaviya Purushasya Rupam
तावत्स्थाय्य पुरुषस्य रूपम् क्रियावसाने प्रयतः स्मरेत
Word to word translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yavat,
Yavat,
as long as, na, does not, jayeta, develop, para, transcendental, avare, mundane, asmin, in the form of, Vishwa Ishware, the Lord of all worlds, Drashtari, unto the seer, Bhakti Yogaha, devotional service, Tavat, so long, Staviya, the gross materialist, Purushasya, of the Virat Purusha, Rupam, universal form, Kriya Avasane, at the end of one's prescribed duties, Prayataha, with proper attention, Smareta, one should remember. Translation: unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. Purport: the Supreme Lord is the seer of all worlds, both material and transcendental. In other words, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate beneficiary and enjoyer of all the worlds. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 5.29, the spiritual world is the manifestation of his internal potency, and the material world is the manifestation of his external potency. The living entities are also his marginal potency, and by their own choice, they can live in either the transcendental or material worlds. The material world is not a fit place for living entities because they are spiritually one with the Lord, and in the material world, the living entities become conditioned by the laws of the material world. The Lord wants all living entities who are his parts and parcels to live with him in the transcendental world, and for enlightening conditioned souls in the material world. All the Vedas and the revealed scriptures are there, expressly to recall the conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. Unfortunately, the conditioned living entities, although suffering continually the threefold miseries of conditioned life, are not very serious about going back to Godhead. It is due to their misguided way of living, complicated by sins and virtues. Some of them who are virtuous by deeds begin to re-establish the lost relation with the Lord, but they are unable to understand the personal feature of the Lord. The real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in his service. That is the natural position of living entities. But those who are impersonalists and are unable to position, those who are impersonalists and are unable to render any loving service to the Lord have been advised to meditate upon his impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa or the universal form. Some way or other, one must try to re-establish one's forgotten relation with the Lord if one at all desires to gain real happiness in life and to reclaim his natural unfettered condition. For the less intelligent beginners, meditation on the impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa or universal form of the Lord, will gradually qualify one to rise to personal contact. One is advised herewith to meditate upon the Virat Rupa specified in the previous chapters in order to understand how the different planets, seas, mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, human beings, demigods, and all that we can conceive are but the different parts and limbs of the Lord's Virat form. This sort of thinking is also a type of meditation on the absolute truth, and as soon as such meditation begins, one develops one's godly qualities, and the whole world appears to be a happy and peaceful residence for all the people of the world. Without such meditation on God, either personal or impersonal, all good qualities of the human being become covered with misconceptions regarding his constitutional position, and without such advanced knowledge, the whole world becomes a hell for the living being. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. The Srimad Bhagavatam is called the light of knowledge when I'm requesting prayers so that I can speak the Srimad Bhagavatam in the right mood to the devotees. I'm saying Om Agyantamirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. By the mercy of the Guru, the light of the Srimad Bhagavatam can shine through me. The reason we say this prayer is because the speaker, me in this case, consider myself to be an opaque medium. We generally want a transparent via medium for the transcendental sound vibration to flow through, but I am unfortunately an opaque medium. So I may only be able to show a shadow of the Srimad Bhagavatam, not the light through it. But the Srimad Bhagavatam by itself is so glorious and it is so resplendent and shining that its glory can shine through me even though I may be an opaque object. So with that, I would like to talk or share what I've been reading or have been hearing that's related to today's verse. There are a lot of very strong and powerful statements made by Srila Prabhupada in this purport. The very first sentence would be the majority of today's class. The very first sentence of the purport is, the Supreme Lord is the seer of all worlds, both material and transcendental. So I would mostly be delving closer into this one sentence about the seer. And this was also something that we touched upon in yesterday's reflection from Adhyana Krishna Prabhu's class. But one small thing before that is I'm going to read the translation of the previous verse. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in the way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified. So, in my room, I have a lot of frames of the Lord there because whenever my sight would go away from my work, I would like to see the Lord. So on my table, I have a lot of frames even fixed on the wall. And one of them is Lord Narayan. And if you notice, Lord Narayan stands in a very specific pose. So Krishna, if you see, he would stand in many different poses. Like in Vrindavan, he has his arm resting on Balram, and in our uh, uh, temple at ISV, he has a different pose. So Krishna generally has different poses, but Lord Narayan has only one pose most of the time. So he has his right arm pointing left and the left arm pointing downwards. So the way to take darshan of the Lord himself is showing, and all of the acharyas and all of the pandits, especially because Sri Vaishnavas generally offer more worship to Lord Narayan. So they say that it is because the Lord wants you to start from the lotus feet. So he's pointing to the feet. My blessings will come from my lotus feet. So anytime they make offerings, they offer the tulsi leaves, flowers, fragrance, everything to the lotus feet of the Lord first. And that's exactly what the previous verse was talking about. The previous verse said the process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and then progress to his smiling face. So the Lord himself, in this deity form, shows us that that's the procedure, how it should be done. And in today's purport, Prabhupada also says, the spiritual world is the manifestation of his internal potency, and the material world is the manifestation of his external potency. So there are two different, the Yogamaya and the Mahamaya, that's been spoken about, and how the spiritual internal potency of the Lord is actually divided into three parts. That's the Sandhini Shakti, the Samvid Shakti, and the Hladani Shakti. These are the three internal potencies of the Lord. That's how we say the Lord has a form. We say he's Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Vigraha is the form, and he has a Sat Chit Ananda, which is eternality, knowledge and bliss. So we say his form is Satchit Ananda. That those are like a pointer to his internal three potencies. So Sandini, Samvit, and Hladini. So when we say the Satchit Ananda, the Sat is the eternality aspect, and that is his Sandini potency. And the Sandini potency refers to all of the foundational aspects of Krishna's creations. Like, for example, the Dham is where Krishna performs his manifested pastimes. So when we say Krishna is in Vrindavan, he is actually in the internal potency which has developed from the Sandini potency of the Lord, that the land of Vrindavan is manifest, and he performs his pastimes over it. So that is why it is Vrindavan as such is not considered to be material, so to speak. It is considered to be a place where Krishna performed his pastimes. So it holds his internal potency, the Sandini Shakti of the Lord. So there's a Sat Shakti. And Chit is the knowledge. So Krishna is, he has the six opulences and he's the most knowledgeable of anybody here. Of course, he's the Lord, right? So the Sat Chit aspect is the Samvit Shakti of the Lord. Samvit is the knowledge. And if we remember the one of the most famous verses that we quote often, 3:25-25, Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Samvido Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana Katha. If you see in the very first sentence, it says Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Samvido Bhavanti Hrit. So what they're saying is, among devotees, you should aim to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Virya is all of the valorous pastimes of the Lord, full of ras. So Virya Samvido. When Samvido is actually samvad or discussion should be had, then it says Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana Katha. Hrid is the heart, Karna is the ear. So it is by the ear that it reaches the heart, and rasa. Rasa is the taste of the mellow. So rasa, Rasayana Katha, the sweetness of the discussions and the expansions on anybody expounding on Krishna's pastimes, they have what is known as Samvido. Samvido is actually the Samvit Shakti of the Lord. They're saying that the knowledge comes from Krishna. So if you see, the way the acharyas explain this is, you need the help of the sun to actually see that the sun exists. So you need sun to exist in order for it to illuminate all of the objects, and then as a result of that illumination, you can see that that is the illuminating object. So what Krishna is saying in this verse is, you need Krishna's Samvit Shakti, internal potency of knowledge, in order to understand Krishna Katha itself. So the requirement is that the Samvit Shakti should exist for Krishna's knowledge to be understood. And finally, we have the Hladini potency, or the bliss, which is what the entirety of Bhakti Yoga is based on, that we offer loving service to the Lord, and the Hladini potency, whose Murtiman Swarup, or whose the deity form is who we offer our prayers and to, is Srimati Radharani. She's the Hladini potency, or the internal potency of the Lord. So here we have the three internal potencies of the Lord, Sandini, Samvit, and Hladini, and that's the Satchidananda Vigraha, Roop, the form of the Lord. And that is why we say the Lord is not formless. This is his form, based on his internal potencies. So the purport further, Prabhupada talks about, the living entities are also his marginal potency, and by their own choice, they can live either in the transcendental or material worlds. I remember one of Radhesham Prabhu's trained boys from the base. He made a very interesting point in one of his classes. He was saying that in an actual prison house, people want to escape from that prison house, right? So even if everybody are behind bars and nobody gives them any type of freedom, there are many instances where prisoners have escaped. Like we know about the, I think there's this film called Shawshank Redemption, where through a lot of persistence, it's a film about a lot of religious symbolism from the Bible, and it shows how a person through persistence is able to escape from Shawshank prison. And I'm forgetting the name, but in SF we have the island, right? Yeah, Alcatraz. From Alcatraz, we had there were a few engineers who actually managed to escape, and it's actually quite fascinating the way they did it. It was over multiple years where they used simple engineering. They used soap. They tried to get all of the soap. They found tarp in the jail, and then they used that to make a lifeboat. And they didn't have any access to weather patterns, but they still were able to escape from Alcatraz. And it is touted to be completely impossible. But then there were a lot of detective work that everybody else did and found out how they escaped. So clearly, it's not an easy task, and it took them a lot of many years to actually escape from prison. So in the prison house, people want to escape. There are no easy ways to escape. Nobody's telling you how to escape. In fact, everybody are restricting you and telling you there's no way you can escape. Right? That's how the prison house is. But still, people manage to escape from that. So the analogy I'm trying to draw is this material world is also a prison that Krishna has created, and it is not restricted. Of course, there are some rules and regulations that need to be followed, but it is not as restrictive as the real prison house is. And the prison house of the material world has a lot of comforts that it does offer. It's not we all understand is dukkale mashashvatam. It is an ocean of difficulties and problems and all of these, sobering facts. But it also gives you some, not to enjoy, but at least to live a good life. It gives you all the ingredients you need for it. And there is no jailkeeper keeping you in. In fact, there are people who are telling you how to get out. There are a lot of people, especially devotees, who go out on books, who do preaching programs. They're in fact telling others how to escape this prison house. They're telling you, follow our path. We will tell you how to escape. We will show you how to do it. And there are so many like senior devotees who are showing by example how one should live a life such that they can escape the prison house. Yet people are unable to, unwilling to actually take that up. And Prabhupada's purport further talks about why. So he says, so living entities become conditioned by the laws of material nature. Yeah, and in fact, it says all the Vedas in the purport itself, all the Vedas and revealed scriptures are there expressly to recall the conditioned souls back home, back to God. In fact, there are manuals, books telling you how to escape this prison house. Yet, people don't want to leave the prison house, which is quite counterintuitive. And Prabhupada further says in the purport, unfortunately, the conditioned living entities, although suffering continually the threefold miseries of conditioned life, we were discussing about one small misery we were facing, are not very serious about going back to Godhead. It is due to their misguided way of living, complicated by sins and virtues. As we all know from the first canto, Prayanal Payusha Sabhya, Kalavasmin Yugejana, Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Upadhata. So it gives all of the ingredients that are present in Kali Yuga. We will quickly go over each of them and why that is very difficult or causes one to continue to stay in the material world. So here Prabhupada talks about one of them, which is due to misguided, which in the verse that 1110, it is sumanda matihi, that is misguided. So it says prayan alp ayusha. It means ayusha is your life. So in Kali Yuga, the lifetime is shorter. As we can see, even if the healthcare is improving, the fact that there's a lot of ultra processed foods available easily, a lot of difficult strains of different viruses like COVID and all of these things, they will easily reduce anybody's lifespan, right? So having long lives that people talk about, especially the old Japanese people or the Norwegians who generally have longer lifespans, even their lifespan is decreasing. And it's just a few years into Kali Yuga. So there's so many predictions that the Earth will carrying capacity of the Earth will be reached soon, which is about 11 billion. After that, the Earth will not be able to sustain people, so the population will start declining. What does that mean? When the population is declining, it means there's more aging population, less youth, and as a result, shorter lifespans. And that is an impending situation. And it's earlier people thought it was thousands of years away, but now it may not seem like that at the pace at which everything is going. So Alp Ayusha, that's the very first thing. We haven't even stepped into the other unfortunate things that are available in Kali Yuga. The first thing itself seems like a sucker punch, right? So Prayan Alpayusha Sabhya, to everybody, all of the sages present there, it's being said to them. Kala Asmin Yugejana Manda Sumanda. So Manda is lazy. So people are generally they're happy, they're chilling, as they would like to say. They Netflix and chill, as that is also said, and they just want a break. They want to catch a break. They want to breathe and take a break most of the time. So it's mostly people. It is unfortunate. I'm also part of that, working 9 to 5 and living for the weekends kind of situation, where people want a break every weekend. And in all of this competitive spirit and competitive world, the main thing is missed. So Guru Maharaj says, keep the main thing, that is spiritual life. That generally goes in the background. It's done, it's generally people think it's an added thing to their schedule that they would rather not do and rather take it easy. No, why so serious? We're already struggling in this world. Why eat only vegetarian food that's offered to Krishna? Why don't I just go to the restaurant and eat it? Isn't it easy? It'll save me time. So people are getting more lazy. Me too. I'm also getting lazy. So I'm not pointing a finger. It's four of them are pointing towards me. So I'm lazy too. Manda sumanda matayo. So the thing about lazy is it means people may be more unwilling to take on austerities. And there's also a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think third canto, which says, Durapyahi alpa tapasa. It says one whose austerity is meager, it is almost impossible for such a person to get the opportunity to serve senior devotees. Durapahi alpa tapasa. And further on, we go from the first thing about, we spoke about short life, then we spoke about lazy. Sumanda matihi, which is exactly what Prabhupada is talking about here in the purport. He says, people are not serious about going back to Godhead, which hints at laziness. It is due to their misguided way of living. So the main thing in their life is most of the time survival, or sometimes greed as well. So these are the guiding factors in many people's lives, unfortunately, because of the competitive capitalistic society. So what happens is they are misguided. And if they're misguided, it could also mean, even if they, let's say, somehow have a good lifespan, they are in a space in life where they can actually take out time to question, ask about spiritual life. So we're trying to see how we can negate all of these, right? So let's say they have a good lifetime, Ayusha is destroyed. I mean, that negative impediment is removed. Okay, the next lazy. Okay, let's say they're not lazy. So let's say they want to attain the highest good, and as a result, they get to it. And then what happens is next is they need to find a bona fide spiritual master who is not bogus. That becomes another impediment, because if they are misguided by someone who's not a bona fide spiritual leader, spiritual master, then their entire life is wasted, right? So let's assume even that is taken care of. Let's say they find a bona fide spiritual master. Manda sumanda matayo. Manda bhagya. Bhagya is fortune. Manda bhagya is bad fortune. Sometimes they may be unfortunate. They may have life circumstances that may not allow them to take full advantage of it. And let's say their life circumstance is also favorable. Let's say that is also all right. Manda bhagya upadrita. The final nail in the coffin is a distracted mind or a disturbed mind. And as we see in today's society, that's been the main thing about doom scrolling and being addicted to immediate sense gratification. So these are the different difficulties that are present in the Kali Yuga. And that's the reason, as Prabhupada is saying, that is why people are not serious about going back home, back to Godhead. So, okay, we only have 10 minutes, but I really wanted to touch upon one of the most important things, which is the very first line of the purport. That is, the Supreme Lord is the seer of all the worlds, both material and transcendental, and he's the ultimate beneficiary. And Bhagavad Gita 5:29 is spoken. Bhoktaram yakatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram Suhridam sarva bhutanam kyatvamam shanti mrichati. Or devotees lovingly call it the peace formula. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam. Tapasya is all of the austerities or the yagya one may perform. And Krishna is the master of all of them. Bhoktaram, he's the master of all of them. One of his words is also Yagyaivaha. That's his name. He's the master or the benefactor of all of the austerities one may perform. Bhoktaram yake tapasam. Sarva loka maheshwaram. He is Maha Ishwara. He's the Lord of all Sarva loka, of all of the 14 planetary systems. And Suhridam Sarva Bhutana. He is the well-wisher, he's the Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He's a well-wisher of everybody. So these are the three things that Krishna has, and those three also cause him to be the seer of all the worlds. So we will understand what seer is. So this is something that I've been trying to understand more deeply. So it's more like a personal interest research that I've been not research, but trying to find more information on it. And in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's teachings, he has like a few of them which he would consider, if nobody knew anything about him but had like 10 minutes, not 10 minutes, but had some time to delve into his works, he would want them to know more about this. And that is called Drigdishya Vichar. It is Vichar, or it is the delving or thinking about who the real seer is, which is what today's first line of the purport is talking about. Who is the real seer? When we go to the temple, we think we are taking darshan of the Lord. We are the seer, is what we assume, at least I do. But here, the purport's first line says, the Supreme Lord is the seer of all worlds, both material and transcendental. So which means somebody else is the seer. How is it that we can say he is the seer? So I started to like investigate a little more. So what happens is there are three aspects of spiritual life that we all have heard about. That is the Sambandha, Abhideya, and the Prayojan. Sambandha is the relationship. Abhideya is the means by which something is achieved. And Prayojan is the final fruit, that is the Supreme Lord himself. So when we say we are seeing something, there are three things in that activity of seeing. One is the person who is seeing, the object that is being seen, and the activity of seeing. Right? These are the three things. So they are called the drishya. Drishya is the object that is being seen. Darshan is what is being seen. And drashta is the person who is seeing. So these are the three aspects of what seeing entails. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says this is his main teaching, because this is exactly what negates what the Mayavadis are trying to say. The Mayavadis are trying to say that the seer, the object that is being seen, and the act of seeing is all within the same object. As a result, that person is considered to be God. So you yourself will be God. That is what the Mayavadis say. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying there are actually three distinct things. The seer is separate from the seen, and there is an activity of being seen. So it's a little nuanced, and I'm trying to understand it, grasp it myself. So I will just read a few things that I've highlighted in the Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav, and also a couple of things that I have kind of gotten from different classes. So we spoke about what Samvit Shakti is when we hear what the people are discussing. When we say Satam Prasankam Amaviri Samvido, it is a Samvit, or the internal potency, which is a knowledge, right? The knowledge of only Krishna, who is all knowledgeable, can enable us to understand things about him, right? So that is one thing we've established. So what really happens is we need to know the spoken word is called Shabda Brahman. It is the vibration that enables us to understand Krishna. So as Kaurakana Prabhu, you were also there in that class. Guru Maharaj was saying, only one who has Krishna in the heart can give Krishna to others. And he gave the example of a candle, how the lit candle can light others but not lose its own flame. So what happens when somebody who is a qualified speaker speaks Krishna Katha is the pastime is going on in their heart. It gets transformed which is this is known as this is the internal potency of the Lord. That is the Samvit Shakti. They have the internal potency of the Lord within them. Krishna has invested his internal potency of knowledge into that person, so he has Samvit Shakti in his heart. When he or she or whoever it is speaks the pastime, it is transformed into sound vibration, and that sound vibration is transformed in and transferred into the eligible disciples or whoever is an eligible person sitting among the audience. And then through the years, it goes in and manifests itself in the heart, and then they themselves get endowed with the spiritual potency. That is real Shabda Brahma. So all of the verses that we've heard, Pravishta Karna Randrena, Swanam Bhava Saroruham, Dunoti Shamalam Krishna, Salilasya Yatha Sharat. Prabhu spoke about 285 in the recent class. It says that the sound vibration of the Lord enters through the ear and cleanses the heart. This is exactly how Shabda Brahman is. When a truly potent individual speaks about Krishna Katha, when they themselves have Samvit Shakti endowed within their heart, that is transferred into sound vibration, goes into the audience's ear, goes into their heart, and it manifests there. So that is how the Krishna in the form of sound vibration is transferred. That is why Krishna Katha is Krishna himself. Krishna is in his name itself. He is in his potency itself. So to expand upon this, there are four different things to know. It may be a bit technical, but it is good to understand as you will start to observe these things in your own life. So in sound vibration, I used to have this question: why is it that we need a living spiritual master to give you knowledge? Like I can just hear his classes online, right? Like why is there so much emphasis on a real spiritual master? Then I was able to find that Samvit Shakti is transferred like this, and it's not transferred via a device. And I was trying to understand why. And then I was able to find that there are four aspects of sound vibration. One is known as para, one is known as pashyanti, one is known as madhyama, and the last is vaikhari. These are the four aspects. We will quickly delve into each one, and then you will start to realize what is what. Vaikhari is the one thing that we hear, which is what I play a YouTube lecture in my from my phone. I hear a speaker speaking. That is Vaikhari. That is the audible words that I can hear and my brain can process. But it does not have three of the other things. So we said there's something called para, pashyanti, and madhyama. These three are respectively the pran, manas, and buddhi. The device that I'm listening a class to does not have these three things. So whatever I hear is beneficial from an external point of view because I'm hearing, but it is not real Shabda Brahman. And what they're trying to say is, an example is given for you to understand what these three are. So whatever you want to speak, let's say I'm saying the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in my mind. I'm not speaking it, I'm not vibrating my tongue. I'm thinking of it in my mind. That is at the level of buddhi, which means it is in the you could say not the RAM, but in the how do I say it? It is in my mind. If I'm thinking of something, let's say I'm thinking of prasadam, I'm not speaking about it, but I'm still thinking about it, right? So that is at the level of buddhi, which means you already have it in words, you just not said it. That is the madhyama, which is before it is converted into sound vibration and sent through the mouth. That is known as madhyama. Pashyanti, as we know, is seeing. Pashya is to see. And yesterday, Kadukana Prabhu was saying, seeing through hearing. That is exactly what Pashyanti part of Shabda Brahman is. You see what it is. Like Prabhu was saying yesterday, when you realize something or when something hits you as a realization, you'll be like, oh, I see, that's what you mean. That is from Pashyanti. That comes from, we said, the pran, which is para. Pashyanti is at the level of manas. It is at the level of the mind being able to understand what is being said. And what comes before you realize that is exactly what para is, which is the pran. So when somebody is endowed with with the internal potency of the Lord, when they have the para, which is the pran level, that is real Samvit Shakti. So just to round it up, before you even speak anything or before anything comes to the mind to say something, whatever is being said, that is at the level of the pran. If Krishna has endowed his internal potency in you, that pran is the Samvit Shakti. Otherwise, it is material. Once you actually realize that something is going on in your mind, or you realize something, that is your subconscious mind working on something on the level of the manas, which is pashyanti. That is what you say, like, oh, I see, that's what you mean. When you say that, that is what is happening in the mind. And then when something comes in your head, like let's say somebody asks a question, even before you say the answer, sometimes the answer comes in your mind, right? Oh, that's the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That what comes in your mind is at the level of Madhyama, and whatever you speak is Vaikhari. So this is what real Shabda Brahman is about. Oh no, okay, I have way too much content to discuss, but we are out of time. But this is how real Shabda Brahman is transferred. I'll just give a brief overview of what I was going to touch upon, and maybe just read out a few of the things that I wanted to say. So this is from the Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav. So I had some things underlined. So basically, what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying is, in fact, he actually was part of this pastime. You see, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wears those glasses, which are kind of on his nose as he reads, reading glasses. And he also uses glasses to see. So one time he was standing at the back of the temple hall, and his disciples were like, Guru Maharaj, you can come to the front and take darshan of the Lord. At that time, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said something very interesting. He said, who is the seer? Am I seeing the Lord, or is the Lord seeing me? And then he told his disciples, you must not try to see the Lord. In the sense, not that you shouldn't, try to attain that position, but your attempt should be to act in a way, behave in a way, and be spiritually inclined in such a way that the Lord wants to see you. Towards that, I had a pastime to share, but we don't have time. So I'll just read what Bhakti Saraswati Thakur is saying. He who sees an object is called the seer, and an object seen by the observer is called the seen. We've established that. The instrument of seeing is called sight. So we spoke about the Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojan, and how the seer, seen, and the object that is seen is in these three. The Prayojan, or the fruit, is the seer, actually. He's the seer. That's what is said in the purport. The Supreme Lord is the seer. So the object that is seeing is actually the Prayojan. It is a common error to deem the sense of sight as the actual seer. Whatever we can measure by any of our senses, we also call a seeable object, and he who senses it is called the seer. It is best that the jiva see himself as the object of Krishna's enjoyment. So if somebody says, I'm seeing Mahaprasadam before eating, I'm seeing, it's actually incorrect according to what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying. It is actually the Mahaprasadam of the Lord endowed with his internal potency that is actually seeing you. And when somebody wants to see their Guru Maharaj, for example, it's actually you must act in a way that the Guru Maharaj wants to see you. So that's exactly what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying. Thinking himself the seer, he sees the world as the object of his own enjoyment. But thinking himself the enjoyer under the influence of false ego will result only in his misfortune. It is not fitting that the jiva see the world as the object of his own enjoyment. Rejecting that outlook and instead seeing the world as the object of the Lord's enjoyment, seeing it as Krishna's world or Gokul, is the jiva's good fortune and satisfies Krishna's senses. I am not the seer, but rather am seen by Krishna. I am not the enjoyer, but the object for Krishna's enjoyment. So when Vijay Prabhu says we need to be at Mangalarti before the curtains open, it is not because we are, at least Bhakti Saraswati is saying, it's not so that we can immediately see the Lord. It's so that the Lord's merciful glance falls upon us. That is how we must see it. So there's also one anecdote where I'll just close with that. What happens is there's one of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's friends who visits Bhakti Saraswati Thakur and tells him that I was able to speak a lot with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I even narrated the entire Bhagavad Gita to him. And he's been very merciful to me, and he's given me Mahaprasadam, and he's kept me fed. And Bhakti Saraswati Thakur gets a little annoyed and tells him, "You have not seen Bhaktivinoda Thakur." So I'll just read that small part of the pastime. So when a devotee requests of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta okay, sorry. Um, sorry, one second. Sorry. Okay. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur became aroused and said, okay, I'll read a little bit. One day, a renowned professor came to the Gaudiya printing works to meet Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was sitting there expounding Harikatha to his disciples. In course of conversation, the professor related that he had recited the Gita before Bhaktivinoda Thakur and was well acquainted with him and some of his children. Srila Saraswati Thakur immediately retorted, "You never saw Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You were never in his presence." The shocked professor replied, "For so many years I discoursed to him at Ramabagam, and you are not accepting this? I am elder to you, and I even know all of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's children." Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur became aroused and manifested his intrinsic nature as the lion Acharya. Quoting him, "Far from reciting the Gita to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you were never able to see him. No mere professor can see Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In our conception, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had no children. He was not a product of this material world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur keeps himself hidden from those who think they are seeing him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur reveals himself to one who understands that he is to be seen by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur." So what Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur is saying is, you shouldn't aspire to see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but you must hope and pray for the mercy that his merciful glance falls upon you, that he is seeing you and in that term enjoy. So what he's saying is, as long as you have such mundane vision, you cannot see Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Become fixed in seeing yourself as the object of his sight. So this is the object of who is the seer and who is seeing. There's one more small pastime that I just want to cover. I'll just cover what I've highlighted, not everything else. So what happened was, there was a devotee who really wanted to, who was really into prasadam, and he wanted to eat this sweet called malpua, which is a sweet dish that is made generally during Radhashtami because it's Radharani's favorite sweet, and he really liked that sweet. So when he was sitting among Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples and honoring prasadam, one disciple wanted to test him because he was a well-known scholar. So he came to test him and asked him, "Are you eating the malpua or is the malpua eating you?" He comes and asks that the scholar, and the scholar is rather offended by that statement. And he writes a letter to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur the same day. "I went to the festival at the mutt, yet while taking prasadam, I became disturbed at heart. I'm not a poor man. I'm getting a pension from the government. My 2 sons are earning well. My wife is most expert at preparing delicious varieties of food. I have eaten plenty of malpua. I did not come to the mutt to gorge on malpua. But your disciple Ananta Vasudev said to me, 'Are you eating the malpua or is the malpua eating you?' Hearing that, I became doleful. Am I so greedy that the malpua would eat me?" On reading this, Srila Saraswati Thakur commented to his disciples in attendance, "Can the learned people of this world comprehend Vasudev's question? Even among us, are there many than a few persons who can grasp it? It is not within the ability of humankind to appreciate these matters. Only by Krishna's mercy can all of this be realized." And then he quotes Tvayopabhokta Shakgantha Vasalankara Chachita Uchishta Bhojino Dasas Tava Mayam Jayemhi, that we sing during the Prasadam prayers. And actually, the Prasadam prayers are also by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Sharira Vidya Jal, they are all composed by him. And Bhakti Saraswati Thakur finishes, I'm skipping a few things, but he says, "One should consider oneself the object of vision or enjoyment for the prasad of the Lord or his devotee. To think oneself the seer and enjoyer will cause one to enter deeper within the kingdom of Maya. Vishnu Prasad is as transcendental and free from degrading transformation as is Vishnu himself." Closing today's class, everything about Srila Saraswati Thakur is to be understood in terms of this Drig Drishya Vichar. Without understanding this, nothing about him can be understood. His Drig Drishya Vichar distinguishes him from all other authentic devotees, from persons whose professed faith in God is motivated by personal intent. By this yardstick, which subsumes all flickers of truth found in other religious processes and reveals their insufficiency, whatever else is called sincerity is exposed as a mere shadow of adulterated sincerity. Only those who have been blessed with this Drig Drishya Vichar by the genuine desire to attain it, can begin to comprehend anything about the personality and teachings of Sri Saraswati Thakur. Others will necessarily blame him for the faults they ascribe to him due to their own refracted vision. Okay, I rambled a lot. I don't know how much may have come through, but I would request you, if you have the copy of the Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav by Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, there's a chapter. I don't know the page number because this is a Kindle version of it, but there's a whole chapter called it's few pages, the seer and the seen. I think it's chapter 5 of part 2 of the book.
So we're being seen by the Vishal.
Yes, please. We are the object of the prasadam's enjoyment rather than us being the enjoyer of the prasadam. That is the actual vision of God. And it is also said that I didn't cover, when it's also the 10th offense to the holy name to think that I can chant the holy name. It is by the mercy of the holy name that it jumps and vibrates our tongue. And it's also said when Narada Muni never plays the veena itself comes alive because of the Harinam and plays itself. So these are few things that's been spoken about. Aham mamadi paramo. That's the 10th offense, right? Aham mamadi paramo. To think, swayam eva spuratyada. To think that it comes through. So, okay, I think I maybe my presentation was not for 30 minutes. So sorry about that. Maybe we can discuss about this in more detail. Maybe others should comment on that. Okay, I think we'll stop. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.